to the links to learning today. It's sunny here in Calgary. I'm coming from Calgary. But it was pretty crazy last night. There was thunder and lightning. Can you believe that? It was crazy. Yes, like my living room lit up from the lightning. That's how bright it was. So, yes, and then today it's sunny. So, go figure, hey? So I welcome you everybody to the workshop today. And just to a reminder to use the chat box if you have questions or the reaction, you could raise your hand. And, Michelle will go into detail with our speakers today. She'll introduce them. And if you could just keep your mics on mute, and it helps with, the broadband within the delivery, and there's no background noise. And with that, I will give Michelle the floor, and she can introduce our great speakers today. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Shauna. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Links to Learning webinar. The conversation is strengthening community through food projects. So really, really important content and important subject. My name's Michelle. I'm joining you from Amiskwaci, Weskaigan, so Edmonton, Treaty 6 territory. We got a pretty good day here compared to last week when we were in the minus 20s with that wind chill at a minus 30. I'm celebrating this day. It's pretty beautiful outside. So welcome, welcome. We're honored, glad that you have joined us. Today's topic, the workshop, is strengthening community through food projects. So food projects produce more than food. They also provide opportunities for employment, youth engagement, and deeper integration with community projects. Through firsthand experiences, this session explores how food projects empower communities in ways beyond the plate. The conversation will focus on why our guests undertook a community food project and its results. So really looking forward to this conversation. We welcome our guests, Branavan, who's joining us from Ottawa, Ontario, and Geena, who's joining us from BC. So during this presentation, there will be an opportunity for questions and answers at the end. But in the event you have some questions throughout, please use that chat box. I will definitely make note of any questions or comments that you have, and we will get to it at the end. Also, there is going to be an evaluation link sent to you. And so we would really love to hear your feedback on today's workshop presentation. And when you finish that evaluation, your name will be entered into win a draw to win a Visa gift card. So please, please, please fill out that evaluation. So on to our speakers. So Branavan is an alumnus of McGill and Acadia University with a business and nutrition background. He is presently finishing his MBA in community economic development at Cape Breton University. His experience spans private and nonprofit sectors, and he brings a unique perspective on using community-based approaches to promote health and economic development. At the Brochure, Branavan supports communities in their efforts to take back control of their food system. Really, really honored to have you here. Our next presenter is Gina Jackson. So as a passionate advocate for Indigenous rights, Geena has worked with the Squamish Nation for 13 years. She was the Economic Development Officer, leading in procurement, partnerships, and relationship building with industry for major capital projects. She is passionate about initiatives to benefit First Nation communities, including increased housing, food sustainability, water purity, and opportunities for economic growth. I say yes to that. She also supports initiatives such as A Right to Play, teaching Indigenous youth life skills, and Live Different, an organization that provides assistance and education to assist with youth suicide prevention in First Nation communities. So these initiatives create positive, life-changing impacts on Indigenous lives. She has also raised hundreds of thousands of dollars supporting Indigenous initiatives, such as the residential school, the Residential Day Scholars fundraiser, the Squamish Nation Annual Trade Center fundraiser, and the Vancouver Indigenous Film Festival. Wow. So welcome, Branavan and Geena. We're really honored that you've made space to share with us your knowledge, your experience, your education. We welcome you to our webinar this morning. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you for hosting. Thank you for allowing us to come and speak.
Hello, everyone, and I want to thank Candu for this opportunity and scheduling and organizing this webinar. And again, thank you, Michelle and Shauna, for the great introduction, and look forward to the conversation today. So if anyone has any questions, don't hesitate to drop it in the sort of the chat conversation, and hopefully we could get through all the questions as well. So to start, I do have a couple of slides here just to highlight any pictures and to put some art to the words that I'm talking about. So if there's anything that anyone has a question about, again, don't hesitate to sort of drop it in the chat. So my background, again, like Michelle mentioned, was in nutrition and community economic development. So most of my days, I get to do two things, work with communities and then work in a field that's truly passionate to me. So I get to talk about food, community projects, and economic development. And what I do at the Brochure, my primary focus is to empower communities to take control of their local food system by sustainably growing food, using a technology that promotes year-round growing at a commercially and sustainable way. So a bit about the Brochure. Michelle mentions we're based out of Ottawa. Initially, we did do a lot of our work with remote communities, so flying only. So the technology was designed for the harsh climates. And again, we wanted to focus on allowing communities to sustainably grow year-round. And then we are a social enterprise, so we do pride ourselves on being able to provide communities with the right resources to effectively plan, implement, and make sure that they're effectively distributing the produce in the community as well. So I'll jump into some more of the specifics about the project. So if we look at setting up a food project, I know there's a lot of sort of opportunities currently, and there's a lot of things to consider. So our goal is to sort of have those initial conversations to focus on sort of implementing a holistic approach to promoting food sovereignty, sustainability, and also on the hands-on skill and capacity building. So when we say growing in a sustainable manner, we do want to make sure that we're growing year-round in a resource-friendly manner. And in a lot of parts of Canada, we're not able to do it year-round. So with the technology, we're able to have an operation that grows at a year-round manner. And then again, we do want to support existing and new opportunities in the community. So a lot of the communities that I've worked with do have cooking classes, health programs, as well as like a community food box. And then again, I have worked with economic development officers who are looking to also have some business opportunities in the community, as well as employment opportunities. So if there's a local grocery store or a local business that wants to buy some of the produce, those are also conversations that we sort of have in the planning stages. So when we look at planning a food project, we do start with the fundamentals. So that the key component to that is understanding what the social needs of the community are, to engage with the community and understand what type of produce is required, what are existing programs that are already in the community that we could work with. So understanding the needs both from a social as well as an economic development perspective really helps set up a project that is truly holistic and self-sufficient as well in the near future. So in those planning steps, We're focused on engaging with community members as well as community leaders to truly understand what the need is for produce and how the produce should be distributed. And then again, we'll break this down into looking at sort of a feasibility support there, looking at the business planning, as well as exploring funding opportunities as well. So once we have those conversations with community members and community leaders, we're able to understand how we want to structure the project. And then once we have that project structured, and then we want to look at implementing, we do provide on-site sort of support where the farm is shipped out directly to the community. And then we'll look at having on-site training for the operators. So from my experience, communities will have a local community members who's interested in growing or looking for a job opportunity. So we'll work with that community member to sort of provide them with the necessary tools to start growing, and then help them also with the business side of things, whereas to distribute the produce. Again, this is just to ensure that the project is self-sufficient. So if the community is exploring a community food box, we want to ensure that the right produce is being grown. For example, for projects that I've worked on with some communities, they're looking at growing cultural crops. So we want to train the operator to ensure that the cultural crop can be grown and then can be effectively distributed to community members. And like I mentioned, you could do a community food box where community members will sign up, or you could look at selling to a local business, or you could do distribution at the school. So these are all different alternatives. And again, like I mentioned, the planning phase will figure those out, having those conversations within the community, and then we're able to drive forward a project that's able to not only tick off the social mandates around food, as well as the financial and the economic development opportunities as well. So again, we do have a growing network of community farmers, and this is definitely an important part, because there's a lot of knowledge sharing that happens within the community. So every community is different, but there are common social mandates as well as economic mandates that we've seen over the years. For example, the project in Kugluktuk, it's primarily focused on working with the local school and the teachers, and as well as the economic development officers. There is an education component to it. If you look at the Kujwak project, we're working with a local business corporation, as well as their local co-op. So there's an interesting partnership there where they're growing cultural crops like Mount Sorrel, and they're distributing it at their co-op store. And then if we look at the Gitsmakmakai Society, they're a nonprofit that delivers service to the Nisga'a citizens in Prince Rupert. So what they're trying to do is offer fresh produce through a food box, as well as direct sales to their community members, as well as serving local businesses as well. For example, if we look at the Norway House Cree Nation project, what they're doing is they're offering produce directly to the community members. So there are different programs that they're doing by donation as well as per head basis. And then the remaining produce is also sold at the grocery store. And other communities like Shoshaguaning First Nation on the Manitoulin Islands, they're looking at directly selling to their community members, as well as to nearby communities as well. So there are different opportunities all across the board, but one common thing that we've sort of seen with every project is there's both a social mandate as well as an economic development mandate, but the key component is to ensure that the project is self-sufficient, and that relies on its sort of proceeds to ensure the long-term success of the program. And again, our goal here is to understand the needs of the community, have those conversations, and figure out what is best suited, and how that action plan to help with the project moving forward. Again, we do have other partners that we work with. So if there's an opportunity to sell to a local business, we can help with those conversations. For example, the project in Norway House Cree Nation, they do have a brand and an identity to the produce that they're growing. They have labels and packaging, which they helps them sort of sell to the grocery store. And if we look at the project in Squamish Nation, they already had a food box that they were growing seasonally with their community garden, and having such technology to grow year round allows them to sort of offer that program year round to their community members. And finally, the project in Ujuak, there is already an existing community garden. So this was pretty much an add-on to sort of support with the year-round growing, as well as hands-on sort of skill building and capacity building within the local community. And once there's sort of these conversations going, we could definitely leverage the existing community projects to learn and sort of share knowledge as well. Again, like I mentioned, a lot of communities are doing different things. They've created different sort of identities with their produce. For example, the Norway House Cree Nation project, they do have a community brand. It's called the Life Water Gardens, and they have different labels that are put on their produce. So community members, when they're buying the produce, they know that it is coming from their local project. And as well as when they sell to a local business, it is easily differentiated amongst other produce that's sold at the grocery store. And again, on the left here, you'll see one of our projects in Churchill, Manitoba. They created their brand. They do like a community food box, and as well, they'll sell to the local grocery store. So what I'll do next is I'll pass the conversation off to Geena, and she'll share more of her inputs working with communities and her time at Squamish First Nation as well.
Hi, everybody. I'm Geena. I am a proud member of the Squamish Nation. Proud member of the Seashell Nation. I worked for the Squamish Nation for 13 years. Lots of family crossover over there. Thank you for allowing me to spend time with you all today. I worked as the Economic Development Officer for the Squamish Nation for 13 years. And in my journey, I was also, wore a different hat. I was the project administrator for the Squamish Nation Trust. This allowed me the opportunity to develop programs and see what the nation needed most that weren't within the budgetary allowances for chief and council for each department. So the Squamish Nation, I'll give you a bit of history. In 2001, had a settlement with the federal government for the Kitsilano lands, and they were awarded $96.5 million. And they wanted to know what to, did a referendum, what to do with the money, and ended up getting a 20% distribution out to the members. And then after everything was said and done, had about $65 million that was left over. And what do we do with it? So they invested it, and all the accrued interest came to my department, which was the Squamish Nation Trust. With that, depending on how the market went, we had about, anywhere from $800 to $1.4 million every year where departments could put in applications for funding. And this would be for housing, of course. It could be for health and wellness. It could be for recreation, language and culture, et cetera. Over the last decade, working with Squamish and other First Nations such as Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh and Stolo and all of the ones on the Lower Mainland, the trend was community gardens and sustainability of food for each nation, and supporting that with each other. Growing Indigenous herbs, growing vegetables for the community, for the elders, for the underprivileged, for community members, getting everybody involved. And realizing that, sustainability of food, particularly with COVID right now, has become very prevalent. I deal with, so I worked with Squamish for 13 years and developed over 500 partnerships or entrepreneurs and partnerships with the industry, and realized, I'm a very socialist individual. And, taking a look and listening to other nations, it's all the same. Housing is number one importance, food sustainability, water purification, opportunities for economic growth. And as an economic development officer, it was party of one, right? So capacity is extremely limited. And we have so many things going on within the nation where we have to report to chief and council, or if we have an economic development corp, then we get to report to them. But there's reporting, and there's applying for funding, and there's running and keeping everyone happy with the nation. So I think capacity is something that is really limited, and we try to do the best that we can. So when initiatives like this come in, where the grocer has an opportunity to offer, you know, a sustainable food opportunity, you know, and whether it's for economic growth or sustainable with the community, especially March Madness, which is coming up, which we all know, which is going to be crazy, where we all have to spend our ISK money if that's what we're a part of. It's very difficult to have that on the side of the desk and knowing that it's great for the community, and not being able to take advantage of an opportunity like this. I'll fast forward. So after working for the Squamish Nation, now I work for a company called Alltech Limited Partnership and Canadian Utility Construction. So I'm the Vice President of Indigenous Advancement. So what I do is I work on capital projects. We have over 150 different partnerships all over British Columbia. It's power and gas, but I work on capital projects where my job is to work with employment and training with the nation, working with the economic development officer, somebody that I used to be. So working for employment and training, social investment within the community, supporting elders, education, canoe journeys, if you're from the West Coast, you know, things like that, out of the box thinking that I really got the experience working with Squamish and the other nations as to what the needs are for working with industry and nations, and having a good synergy with that. But, you know, it's so limited with capital projects. I love my job, and it's allowed me, you know, to work with 150 amazing nations and different cultures and different governmental structures. But my love is sustainability of food and water and housing, et cetera, and thinking out of the box. And so I met the grocer, and coincidentally, you know, Squamish Nation was the first one on the Lower Mainland to get this technology. And Kelly McReynolds and Jackie Gonzalez, which you'll be hearing later on, two wonderful, beautiful people that are very proactive. And knowing that there's a need for the nation, and we're not a rural nation. We are right next to Park Royal Mall. We are, you know, there's about 4,100 members, but there is a need in every community to have food, to have fresh vegetables. It's about promoting health. It's about promoting community, getting people involved in learning how to grow and having that community hub. So how Dale Saruda from Nation Build Group, he asked me if I would assist in directing some of the nations towards the Brochure, if nations would be interested in sustainable food. Oh my God, of course. Would they be interested in getting funding for sustainable food? Yes. Do we have time as economic development officers to do proposals and apply for funding and everything else that goes with it? Probably not, especially coming up with March Madness, et cetera. So he came up with an easy button, you know, let's get a presentation to the nation. So Branavan comes and does a presentation, you know, arranges a presentation for whether it's Chief and Council or the ECDEV Corp or the Health and Wellness or whomever it is, where the decision makers are in the room, where he can do a more in-depth presentation of the opportunity. The opportunity being, number one, is it just for sustainability of food within your nation? Everybody needs it. So you know, this is important because you can get 50 to 70 boxes every single week, whether it's January, February, March, April. This can be in conjunction with your community garden where people work outside and you can actually see it. But to have the irrigation systems, to have everything confined where you can grow your indigenous herbs, you can grow leafy vegetables, you can go grow different, whatever you choose, it's customized, and having that hub. So that, can you imagine having that in your community where you can deliver 50 to 7 boxes every single week? Amazing. So then there's another, you know, you can do half sustainability for the nation where you're giving to the underprivileged and the elders and what have you to increase health and wellness. And then you take half of the growings of the agriculture, and then you bring it to a community market, a farmer's market. You make a deal with a local IGA or independent store or Whole Foods or whomever, and then you brand it. as per your nation. And then there's the third wave where it's just for economic growth for the nation. So you just take the vegetables, you have your employees, you have that community hub, and it becomes a business. So there's 3 different levels that that can work with this. Branavan is amazing. You know, he speaks. Before I started even promoting this, I spoke to Kelly McReynolds and what was your experience with Laurent and Branavan, and what was your experience with Florence? And she just absolutely loves them both, and you know, just a great experience, and really looking forward to getting this started with Squamish and being in every part of it, even though I don't work for them anymore. I'm still going to be involved in it just to see how it goes. And I know the community. I worked for them for 13 years, so they're very close to my heart, and just really promoting this with other communities within the area. And I think, you know, if one nation close to you is doing it and you're able to look, see, feel, and go, then you're going to get other nations to do it. And just promoting the health and wellness of a nation, promoting community, having some economic growth or sustainability, and just giving health to the nation. And I think, you know, that's where my socialist side comes in. So, you know, here's the steps. Basically, if you're interested in something like this, whether it's for economic growth or whether or not it's pushing it to the health and wellness wing of your nation, there is money out there. There's grant money. There is money that you need to spend that, you know, that is available. As we know, March 31st is coming up. By March 15th, there's a lot of money. And then after March 31st, there's a new influx of money. So depending on your timeline, yeah, I suggest contacting, you know, getting in touch, having a presentation for the decision makers within your nation, just getting, and then getting the red light, or the green light, I should say, getting the green light to go. And then let's work out, you know, the ultimate funding, right? There's funding opportunities that are, you know, you can get up to $100,000. And then finance for the rest. There's the local agriculture fund where you have to come up with 15% of your own money. And then the rest, you get up to $200,000. So nothing is templated. Every nation is different. The needs of the nations are different. So whether it's just sustainability of food, half economic growth, or full economic growth for this project, everything can be customized. The easy button can be pushed, literally getting information from you. Nation Build will do the application for you, or Branavan will assist with that. And then we move forward. So I guess that's really about it. For me, if you have any questions.
All right. Well, we do have some questions. And for those who are joining us, feel free to bring your questions to this conversation. So what are the critical factors for success with food projects and other community programs?
Well, Branavan.
No, that's great. That's a great question. So from my experience working with communities, it's the initial conversation. What is the goal of the project? To really understand that, and then to sort of set the project up. So once you have those initial conversations, it becomes easy to understand if it's more of an educational, is it a sustainability like Gina mentioned, or is it a mix of both, right? So once we figure that out, then it becomes very easy to set up the project. So just having that initial conversation is probably the biggest barrier to overcome. But once you have those conversations, we sort of can support with that and figure out what would make the most sense. And again, we do have a network of farmers that we could leverage. So we could go to, for example, the folks in Norway House and ask them what their experience was, and they'd be able to share some of their learning. So we do have all those projects already, so we could share that knowledge. But truly understanding what the community wants and how the community wants the project to be set up is probably the biggest factor for long-term success.
Okay, next question. How does the planning process for a food project look like?
Great question again. And I think it starts with, like Gina mentioned, is having those conversations within the community as well as like the council with the leadership to understand if there's an opportunity to set this up. So once we have that initial meeting and we're able to share what the project is, collect some ideas, and then move forward with the project, I think the initial conversation with the leadership and then sharing how the project's going to be set up, and then finding the champion within the community to manage the project. That's where the crucial sort of step is. So for example, I've worked with economic development officers before. I've worked with health directors. I've worked with entrepreneurs in the community. I've worked with community members who are just interested in growing. So they become the go-to person for that project. But having those conversations first with the council, getting approval, and then working with the champion that's going to lead the project, I think that's where the initial start begins.
Awesome.
I think too, sorry if I can just add to that. I think getting a presentation, and I wouldn't go as far, just getting a preliminary presentation. So for example, to the health and wellness, or just to a small group to find out more about it, because it can be, if you don't have all the answers to the questions for chief and council, and I know in my experience, sometimes you have to wait 6 weeks to get into a meeting with chief and council, and then they ask questions that you're like, I don't know what kind of funding, because I haven't looked into that. So getting a preliminary little group, and like Branavan noted, sort of a champion to spearhead this. Like for example, Jackie Gonzalez, she's going to be speaking as well. Kelly McReynolds is the department head. Jackie Gonzalez is always, and I know this because she used to apply for grants all the time on behalf of that department. Somebody that brings the idea, says, this is amazing. This is where I think that we should put it, right? So basically you need a regular plug, and you can have a garden hose to put one of these units. You don't need to have, 220 volt, or have an electrician, or have like civil come and dig something for you. It can be as easy as plug and play. So find, go and sort of site out a location so you have that information. Know what the needs are. So a garden hose and something close to a plug, or another building, what kind of, and then we can come up with what kind of funding sources might be best for your nation. Some are treaties, some are not treaties. ISK may support this, or what have you. So coming up with a couple different, 2 or 3 different funding opportunities that might work for the nation. And then the technology, and then you bring that package, that nice little package, to the decision makers or chief and council and say, okay, we're serious about this. We've got the technology. We see a need. The need is we need food sustainability for our nation. We need health and wellness to be improved by having fresh vegetables on a regular basis. I've got, that's the need. I've got the technology. I've cited a location. Here's the specs for it. Here's how much it's going to cost, and here's the funding sources that we've reached out, that we've identified. Are you interested? And then we put the applications in on behalf of the nation, with the champion's help, and then we wait. And if it gets funded, it gets funded, but it's as easy as that. Thank you.
What's the typical timeline?
So that depends on the grants. I know with the local agriculture fund, it's about a 90-day response to the submission. When you're dealing with ISK, with core funding, that could be anywhere, I would say no more than 3 months for any of the funding opportunities to get a response back.
And have you guys ever worked with any like high school programs?
Yeah, no, so a lot of our projects do have a strong educational component. So having youth being involved in the process, even it be like harvesting, even the business side of things, if they're going to run the community food project where students are marketing it on Facebook, going to their community center and selling the produce. So we've done the whole spectrum. So there is a strong educational component that could be incorporated. So if we have a local teacher at the community school that's interested in using the system for the students, then that's also something that we could definitely support with.
And is there anything like, maybe smaller, let's say kids after school, like younger, like junior high, elementary, junior high could, partake in, because I'm seeing all of this is not not just on the economic development, but also on like the mental health, also on the the wellness, also on the community, gathering and coming together, and then that sense of pride in your community, right?
Yeah, no, that's definitely a great point. So like for the younger kids, we could definitely have curriculum that's sort of in play where there's coloring books and things like that that show the youth that this is how produce is grown, this is where it comes
Mhm.
from, things like that as well. And then there's definitely an opportunity to work with the local school. So either we could have the unit next to the school and have it as strong educational component. We could distribute produce at the local school cafeteria. So there's endless opportunities to work with community programs. It's to find out the best fit for the community to really
Yeah.
understand what's the best use and of the opportunity. But uh, that's definitely a good question.
So, because the reason I ask is in the beginning of COVID, there was a junior high school here in Calgary that had a food sovereignty type program, and somebody broke in and stole their produce and what have you. But then the community that their sub community that they were in, all came together and tried to help them to build, because these kids, that like their sense of completing something, belonging, doing something, all that comes with all of that mental wellness, right? They saw that, and so I thought, what, this would definitely be awesome for you know all levels of school kids, right? Yeah. Well, thank you. It was I totally enjoyed this presentation. Are there any other questions?
Thanks for those questions, Shauna. Just wanting to know, what kind of support do you and the Brochure team provide to ensure the success of a project?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So as I mentioned, we start off right in the initial engagement, like Gina mentioned as well. So we provide support in the planning. So the community conversations, presenting to chief and council, getting the approval, looking at funding opportunities. Like if there's a business plan that's required, we could support with that. Then we look at the actual implementation. So we do have team members on the Brochure that specialize in growing. So they'll work with the lands manager on the implementation side. And then we do show up to the community and provide on-site training for the operator and the program manager. For example, if the EDO is going to oversee the whole project, we'll provide training for them. And that's to make sure that we ensure the long-term success. And also the farm itself does have remote monitoring. So we're able to access the farm from our offices in Ottawa and provide recommendations. And that's just to ensure that the project's up and running and it's successful and it's growing effectively.
Great. I believe, Russ, you had a
Yeah.
question. You wanted to unmute yourself.
Yep, I just didn't want to jump the queue.
No
I've talked with brochures before. I don't know if you remember me there.
Yeah, Russ, long time no see. How's it
Long
going?
time no talk. Yeah, we kind of went sideways there when the COVID hit nasty. So, basically food sovereignty has gone sideways for the past 500 years for our communities. We're talking about diabetes and all this other stuff, right? But yeah, we've talked about moving these guys south of the medicine line into North Dakotas, where we're currently doing a lot of water treatment and flaring, trying to capture all the flaring, trying to get these people into the Dakotas, not only for food sovereignty, but also for their medicines, which, flaring, all these mining are killing our medicines. So like, for instance, the North American tribe, they're losing their hemp. It grows wild on their territory. So this is a project that we were looking at with the elders, but it's unfortunate now that this COVID, but you're still in the talks there, grocers. We're talking business, right? As grassroots, I think we need to be there front and center instead of having chief and council do our dealings for us. I mean, that's, for us, the grassroots, we're not even involved at the table, like for example, Rio Tinto's, ESS Compass Groups, Nula Logistics, right? So this is where we were beginning until grocers jumped in, and now they're working closely with ESS Compass Groups, one of the man camps there. So how was that consultation? How was your consultation with the ESS instead of the local traditional landowners? How did that go?
Great question, Russ. Yeah, so the project with the nation there was that portion, there's the grocery unit itself is located right next to the co-op store. So what the goal was to sort of have an ECDF component where they're distributing some of the produce that's grown to the mine and then covering the cost of the produce that will be distributed to community members just to offset the cost. So finding out that perfect sort of opportunity where you're selling to a business, which covers the cost of other produce that will be distributed to community members, and having the unit right next to their local grocery store just facilitates that, where you're able to sell right off the unit, goes right into the grocery stores, and you distribute it directly to community members. And those conversations were brought about, and they were planned in a way that would ensure that the project was self-sufficient, and it would also reduce the cost of produce for local community members. Because as we know in Canada, the further north you go, price of produce is ridiculously high, and the quality is also lacking. So being able to grow that and then having that business component where you're covering your large expenses sort of makes the produce affordable as well.
See, because, you know, like for us, for the local, like it's our traditional lands there. I mean, we can see the camp right from our band office, and it's getting huge. You know, Rio Tinto will be putting in another 1,100 beds, right? So we're talking a man camp here that's, you know, in yelling distance to a First Nation. And, you know, obviously, you guys know all the problems with the man camps, you know, just across this great island. So we were looking to be preferred vendors as a grassroots people, right? And then all of a sudden they said, oh, we're not looking at that partnership anymore because we have grocers. So would you guys be willing to come to our group, our membership, and say, okay, so what kind of joint venture would you like to have?
Definitely. So like a lot of the community projects we worked on, they're partnerships. So we still talk to all the sort of farms that we've implemented 3-4 years ago. So again, it's an ongoing partnership, and we're definitely willing to have those conversations and see how we could support through the whole process.
Good. Thank you.
It was awesome reconnecting, Russ.
Yeah. We'll get together. We'll take you down to North Dakota soon.
We'll do it for sure.
I think that the best thing about the Brochure too is that you can you can start small. So you can start with one container, and you can see, and that would be, you know, 50 to 70 boxes for the community. And whether or not you choose to have an economic development wing of that, or just sustainability of food, you have the ability to grow. So if it works in the community, it's a buzz with the community, and you're selling half your goods or you're selling all your goods, the ability is to apply every year, get more funding, get more support from the leadership or your community initiatives, and really make it a community hub, and be able to grow it. And I love the point, you know, this isn't just for sustainability, it's for health and wellness, it's for elders, it's for community education, it's for youth. It's to bring togetherness, and it brings us back to our roots where we're growing our own produce and we're providing for our own community. So it's just, I believe I'm really, really committed to this, to bringing this to as many nations as possible. You know, in my real life, I work as a VP for capital projects, bringing opportunities and you know, for employment and training, things like that within communities. But this is really a passive socialist love of mine. And every single nation, there's no way that you would ever bring this to any leadership and say, you know, we want to have the ability to grow our own food for our elders and to be as sustainable. You know, during COVID, especially, you know, I deal with a lot of the peace regions and up north where they love this idea. So bringing the idea where please contact us if you're interested. We'll get a presentation for you. We'll sit down and customize, what kind of funding that we can put in place for your community. If it's not for the economic development wing and it's just something that's going to sit on your desk, give us to health and wellness, give us to language and culture, give us to the education wing, and allow us to work with one of your champions and get this for the community, because it's doable. We've seen it happen. There's funding out there. And all we can do is grow as communities and grow as each other and be sustainable and win. So lovely product.
Thank you for that, Gina. And I was just going to add, our youth today are really paying attention. They are paying attention to, things, even little things. They're water protectors. They're paying attention to that. They're paying attention to ceremony. They're paying attention to, consultation processes and, things like that, that they're, I look at my community and a lot of youth are paying attention to that. And a lot of youth are looking at caring for their parents, caring for their grandparents, caring for their elders. There was a young girl we had at the last conference we had in Gatineau, and I don't know who's calling me. Anyhow, she got up and she said she was recognized for assisting her elders. So whenever there was a gathering or whatever, her and a youth group would make platters and plates and food and bring it to the elders. And she was recognized for that. And she was like, you guys call it volunteering. I just called it a way of life, And so these young people are definitely, paying attention to, what's happening and the land, and it's, so that's why I was like asking like, well, where can this program evolve into our young people, and where, what can it be done to that? Because they're just like sponges, these young kids, right? They just absorb. And they, like, I know when I was fixing my garden this past spring, my little one was like right in there, wanting to be a part of that. And they want to be outdoors, they want to get all mushy and do all of that stuff. So what, I love this presentation. Thank you, guys.
Thanks, Shauna. There was a comment in the chat from one of the participants. So hopefully you could lend some advice, some words. Looking for some funding streams available for East Coast Maritime First Nations for community food projects. So regarding food security and traditional foods, do you have any advice, any direction you could point this individual?
Yeah, currently there's one opportunity that's sort of being resonating with a lot of the communities around food. So Agriculture Canada has a local food infrastructure fund. So that's definitely one that would be a perfect for this. I'm not sure if there are any more sort of local regional ones. We could definitely look a search. If they reach out to us, we could sort of reach out to our network and see if there's any other opportunities. And I think Indigenous Services Canada may also have a few opportunities that are currently open. Again, it would be the best thing to do would be to reach out to those folks directly and see if there's an opportunity, and they'll definitely be keen on supporting the project. But yeah, the most one that pops into my mind right off the bat is the Agriculture Canada one, as well as a few with Indigenous Services Canada.
Yes, the local agriculture fund has, they've dedicated $50 million towards agriculture. And this is province to province in Canada. And that's till 2024. At this point, as far as I've reached out, they don't have any funding until November. However, it's good to get the application in because they'll have basically another $15 million to give away. So, the maximum is 200,000. So there's a lot of opportunity for communities to get funded for that. We're also, contacting Branavan or myself. We're always also coming up with a huge resource database on what kind of funds are going to be available and what the timelines, et cetera, are. So you can get a hold of us and it's a working document, but we have some administration that's going to be helping us. So we'll have that very soon.
Well, thank you. What a great resource, what a great potential opportunity for, our communities. So definitely something to think on, something to go offer tobacco and pray on. Before we close, is there any other questions, comments? Would love to hear from you.
Sorry, I think if anyone's interested too, don't forget, there is money that needs to be spent by very large organizations right now by March 15th. So it doesn't take long to get an application in for this type of funding if you're interested in it. And if you don't have the time, then, after March 15th, let's talk about it, because, there's new funding that will roll out after March 31st, after fiscal year. But as we know, it's first come, first serve. So this isn't something where you're going to have to spend a lot of time on it. It's just, do we like the concept? Let's have a champion. Let's identify if there is a need and what kind of need, where the location is going to be. Let's get some funding applications in and let's work with each other and win for the entire community.
Is there anybody out there that's already got some like food sovereignty, like in place, or maybe has a best practice or anything they could share? No?
Can I jump in?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're in a really good process. Actually, we have a really great network and group of people across this great island of ours, right? We work both sides of the medicine line, and some of our good groups are potentially one of the wealthiest oil and gas people in the Bakken, the 3 affiliated tribes we are working directly with them. And one of the biggest producers now will be greenhouse. They're building a greenhouse there that's probably about 10 acres. So, moving forward, this is a nation to nation build, and we're slowly bringing it back in across Canada. So like, I'm going to ask Gina Jackson here. So do you, like your business development, do you help, smaller groups, Indigenous, starting off young nation groups do preferred vendors lists to these huge mining companies, gas companies?
Oh, yeah. So perfect.
You do that?
Yes, I do. Yes. That's when I worked for the Squamish Nation, that was my main job as an ECDEV officer, was in charge of procurement and limited partnerships and preferred partnerships, benefits, joint ventures, revenue shares, all of that. And then my subcontracting, my biggest thing with working with capital projects, yes, employment and training is great if possible, but subcontracting every single person I possibly can of Indigenous partnership or member-owned businesses, yes. So yes, you can contact me for that.
Right on. You know what? Because we've heard these supposedly great stories from companies like Rio Tinto, De Beers, and saying, hey, listen, we're going to put First Nations to work. And if we go back in 2 years, those people from our reserves are just pushing brooms. They're janitors. We don't want that. We don't want that.
No, we create legacy positions, not just opportunities for employment, but actual careers and management positions and administration, not just, pushing shovels. So absolutely. Yeah,
Thanks
absolutely.
I'll contact you.
Okay. Great.
Awesome. So we have one comment in the chat and then we'll wrap things up. We are at a stage of business plan. This is from Doug Barks. We are at a stage of business plan to look at actual costs and determining capital investments, as well as if we can find supporting corporations locally that may also support in capital funds. Well, they just said there's some dollars that are available. There you go. Found some cost absorption from ISC for feasibility study and business plan costs. So our next step, I'm looking at build and actual operations. Awesome. I wish you nothing but greatness with that. But yeah, I definitely think each community should, partake in something like this, especially, as we move forward. But thank you, everybody. And vertical greenhouse was chosen as best option for this community. Right on. So with that, the presentation is going to be, it's recorded and it'll be on the website. And there's some evaluation processes. I'll let Michelle bring those up. But I just like to thank you guys. I don't know if I introduced myself at the beginning there. My name is Shauna Morningbull. I'm the Alberta Director for CANDO, and I've also been elected as the on the executive as the treasurer. And, you know, I look forward to these links to learning every week. So, you know, tell people, you know, share the links and everything. And, you know, definitely, you know, we're here for, I think, about 5 more weeks. Yeah. So with that, I'll hand it to Michelle, and she's got some good parting words, and she'll talk to you about the evaluation.
Awesome. Thanks, Shauna. And thanks, Gina and Branavan, for your information that you brought and your passion as well, right? It's about the quality of life for our people and our community and our nations. This sounds like an excellent opportunity, which is promoting, which you said again and again, promoting health and wellness, food sustainability. So really, really good resource. We have this webinar 3 more times. I believe there's different speakers who are sharing their experience. So if you feel like you want to learn a little bit more, feel free to join us. So this afternoon, is 3 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. And then on Thursday, today is Tuesday, on Thursday, it's 9 a.m. and 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you are welcome to join us. Also, you can catch this on the website. We do post all the videos there. So thank you all. I know that we all carry in our hearts this hope for wellness, for quality of life, for success, for growth, both economically and community wise and personally for all of our peoples. So we carry that, and may we continue to offer our good prayers. May we continue to offer our songs, our medicines. May we really continue to look out for one another. So have a good rest of the day. Thank you for joining us. Be well. And I hope, you know, there was a seed planted, and there's, you know, check out their website, get in contact with Gina or Branavan. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.